on the front page of the Jerusalem Herald and Review. Jeremiah is found between the book of Isaiah and the book of Lamentations, thought to have been written by Jeremiah too. The reading is on page 731 in your Pew Bible. You can also access it through our guest internet point via your tablet or your smartphone. From Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 1, and then 4 through 7. These are the words of the letter that the prophet Jeremiah sent from Jerusalem to the remaining elders among the exiles, and to the priests, to the prophets, and all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had taken into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, to all the exiles whom I have sent into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Take wives and have sons and daughters. Take wives for your sons, and give your daughters in marriage, that they may bear sons and daughters. Multiply there, and do not decrease. But seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf. For in its welfare you will find your welfare. Blessings on this reading of Holy Scripture this morning. A survey conducted this past year by NPR Illinois and the University of Illinois in Springfield revealed that 3 out of 5, or 61% of the survey responses, have considered moving out of Illinois. Now, while Illinois' unpopularity is probably for us of little to no surprise, given common misperceptions about taxation, it's 4 seasons in one day, which we had on Friday, one day weather patterns at times. There's a big difference, though, between thinking about leaving and actually taking the necessary steps to move. For example, the survey actually asks, you probably would look for a job in that greener pasture state. Well, unless you're retired, then you should probably look at whether that state does or does not tax your pension or Social Security. And you probably need to look at the cost of living and the housing market, etc., in those fabulous states of Texas and Indiana and Tennessee and, of course, beloved Florida. But when the survey asked if people had looked at getting a job, 61%, I think 77% said the economy in Illinois is fair to rotten. Or checking out whether the housing is good or the cost of living differences in Florida versus Illinois. Only 16% out of the 61 dissatisfied percenters really actually looked for a job in that Shangri-La of Indiana, or that Shangri-La of Iowa, or Tennessee, or Texas. But only 5% of those actually applied for a job in Tennessee, Texas, or Florida. Now, 26% shopped for real estate in those other states, but only 2% actually applied for a mortgage in the other state. Now, 28% looked at the cost of living in the other states, but only 15% looked at the actual cost of renting the U-Haul to move to that new state. Most people like the possibility of moving, but few will probably make plans to move, short of necessity or opportunity. And for all the utopias and Shangri-Las that sound fantastic in literature and paradise in visions, but they're always found to be never more than a longing or a dream. 3 out of 5 of us want to move to a different state, but less than 1 in 5 have even looked for a house. Now, it may sound great, but it may not be as wonderful as we seem. And always, with a Shangri-La or a utopia, there is some unknown shortcoming or some undesired requirement or cost that we discover that Shangri-La isn't all we thought it would be. Now, our scripture lesson today is about people who have been forced by necessity from their homeland by a conquering enemy to move from Jerusalem to the city of Babylon and the Babylonian Empire, a completely foreign land. Now, rather than fantasizing about this exotic new place to live, Babylon's great condos and tax evasions, the people of Israel, most of them being former members of the court and the Israelite government, are fantasizing about coming home, going back to Israel. Now, Jeremiah is giving that advice to those who believe if they could only get back to Israel, they would be happy. And the God of Israel responds and tells them to make the best of what they already have. Quit fantasizing about the homecomings and start your life among the Babylonians. Put down the roots, build the new homes, plant the gardens and the crops, start the families and expand your family life. And seek the very best for Babylon, your former enemy, who defeated your king and your empire. Hence you are exiled. The less you are seeking the shortcomings, the more good you will find. Often people never live fully in any place because they never choose to live fully in the first place. If paradise is always the next city, the next job, the next state, it will never be found in the current city, with the current job, or in the current state. Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon played 2 teenagers who, through the magic of a remote control and one of Don Knotts' last screen appearances in a movie as a TV repairman, old-fashioned TV repairman, are magically transported to the set of Tobey Maguire's favorite 1950s sitcom, Pleasantville. Think of Pleasantville as a blend of the Donna Reeve Show and the Andy Griffith Show. Everything in Pleasantville is in gorgeous Technicolor black and white. There's no divorce. And by the way, married couples sleep on twin beds, separated. There are no latchkey kids in Pleasantville, and every man goes to work in hat and suit. And the housewives always gather at 2 p.m. for a good game of pinochle. The firemen of Pleasantville never have to put out fires. There was never a fire in Mayberry. You never saw smoke and flames. They were always called out for that worst of emergencies in a 50s sitcom. A cat caught in the tree. It never rains. There's also no way to get out of the town. If you go on Main Street, it circles right back to Main Street. A perfect, technicolor, black and white paradise. It is absolutely everything that Tobey Maguire's life in the late 1990s lacks, and he quietly fantasizes about. With his sister, played by Reese Witherspoon, she begins to counter this bucolic 1950s black and white town. Discovering, for example, that the school library and the town library has books with the covers on them, but there's no words on the pages inside the books, even the classics like Huckleberry Finn. And the ice cream shop owner, Mr. Johnson, played by Jeff Daniels so well, would love to paint something other than black, white, or gray on his store windows at Christmas time. But there are no color portraits in the art books of town. Now, when Reese Witherspoon goes up to Lover's Lane and reveals that there is more to life than just sitting in a car and holding hands with the high school quarterback, then Pleasantville suddenly starts to show a little color. Mrs. Johnson's rosebush shows a little red. The books start to fill in pages. And some people turn into real red, real green. And Mr. Jacobson's garage is a real color of blue. Because often those good old times that we suddenly recall so fondly were actually rather ordinary days, when we didn't think at the time they were the good old days. Tobey Maguire's desire for that unchanging 50s sitcom paradise actually revealed that paradise's ignorance, arrogance, as well as its limits. Some of the town people are in living color. Some of the town people are not. And at the corner hardware store, a sign is placed. No coloreds served. Tobey Maguire's desire for that perfect 50s sitcom mom made him treat his 1990s divorced mother so poorly at the beginning. But when he returns from that life back into the 1990s, he finds that his mother is still fantasizing about the time when she and her former husband were together and they had jobs and they had the life that she so wanted. But Tobey's experience in Technicolor Pleasantville changed everything. He sees clearly now that there is no perfect car, nor marriage, nor perfect life. Because your contentment will never be found in perfection of income, perfection of mobility, perfection of relationships, or perfection in possessions. Most of what happens around us is really outside of our direct control and influence. We all live a majority of our lives in some form of Babylon and have the Babylon of circumstances. Perfection is perfect because it never ever exists in real life. It never has, and it never will. What needs to change are the things you know you can and you could actually change. Now, a few of us really do need to get that new job, and some of us really do need to make that move to a new place. But to chain your happiness to either is only locking yourself into disappointment when that happiness fails to happen. Perfect jobs, perfect spouses, perfect churches, perfect houses, perfect schools are never found anywhere in the world. But when you invest your best into each of those things, you may discover how surprisingly close contentment has always been in your life. Our restlessness will find peace of mind when we are less interested in giving everything and everyone a piece of our minds, and instead start using our best thoughts in fully living here and now. Unless by necessity or by opportunity, make your current home the best you've ever lived in or ever built. Plant the garden and eat its fruits and vegetables. Nurture the family you have rather than scold your disappointments about their shortcomings. Invest in this church with your full heart, mind, soul, and time and treasure. And you might be surprised at how close the Spirit of God has been all of this time. More often than not, the greener grass that we see from the other side of the fence is artificial astroturf in the first place. And more often than not, that perfect family around the corner with the envious real estate are having financial problems, having hidden addictions, and often failing relationships. And remember that the perfect church would likely not invite you to be an attendee or a member. You wouldn't qualify. You're not perfect. In the movie City Slickers, Billy Crystal is a man that's going through a midlife crisis and doubting his worth due to the work he sells. He sells airtime on a radio station. There is nothing physical about it, just selling ads. So with a group of adventuresome buddies, they undertake this cattle drive. And Billy rediscovers what matters in his life. As his wife picks him up at the airport, she is really ready to let him seek happiness in a new career. His wife says, "Honey, if you really want to change jobs, it's okay with me." But Billy Crystal responds, "I don't need a new job. I just need to do my current job better." Paradise can be found whenever we discover ourselves already living in it. Contentment will be found when we make life better, even while living in the Babylons of circumstances. Most of our disappointments will not be as large when we see how much of our happiness is already present. For every Babylon has the potential to become a homeland when we make the best of it. It is all in the manner of your investment. If you invest yourself in never finding happiness, you will never find happiness. If you invest yourself in finding the best in any circumstance, the best in any trial, the best in any struggle, you will discover that even evil Babylon has its potential. Make the best of your investment, and you will receive the dividend one way or another. Don't let life's dividends pass by in search of investments that will never pay. Because in 20 years, these days will be fondly recalled as the best of times. And you never really lived out the potential when they were first